Hey YouTube, Joeboy here. So, One Piece chapter 1004 is out. If you guys haven't checked out that chapter yet, I suggest that you do so because I will be spoiling you. But now that you have, let's begin. So this is the chapter that we have all been waiting for all of Wano, I guess? This review is probably going to come off as more critical than it needs to be, but the main discussion about this chapter, I feel like, lends towards criticism. I really wish that all my reviews was nothing but positivity and sunshine and oh my god, I love this, and that does take place, but at the end of the day I want to talk about what everyone else is talking about, share my opinion about it, so that, lends towards honesty. But I want to make this clear, guys, I enjoyed the chapter quite a lot. Actually, I thought that it was fun. This wasn't a blow my mind chapter, it was just classic One Piece fun. So I guess we'll start off with the part of the chapter that I actually liked the best, and that was Sanji's comments about Robin. Your life is now in my hands. Now call Nico Robin here. If you face this girl while you speak, your voice will be projected through the whole castle. You do that and you'll be free to go. These are Master Kaido's orders. Sanji says, what do you want with Robin? Let's see, first we'll surround her, then we'll break all of her limbs so she won't run away, but don't worry, we won't kill her, not until we get what we want. Sanji says, you shouldn't underestimate Nico Robin. That line was worth it. Come on, guys, that line was worth it. Honestly, I've thought for a long time that as a fighter, even though Robin doesn't fight all that much, certainly not 1 vs 1, she's kind of underestimated because in the vast majority of arcs where she contributes, Robin pulls her weight. Some of the stuff that she's capable of doing, even just the little stuff, the intel gathering stuff earlier in Wano, top tier. Black Maria acts as though taking down Robin is gonna be easy. No big deal, we're just gonna surround her, then break her, just another day's work, and Sanji knows what I feel like I know, and other One Piece fans know. It's like, I don't know about that one, champ. I'm so glad Sanji said it. When he said it, I felt it. I'm ready for Nico Robin to frustrate the hell out of Black Maria. Honestly, I want Robin to make her look bad, and then win. Which is actually what I expect to happen. I have some questions as to whether the Alliance is going to defeat both Big Mom and Kaido. I have questions about the Calamities, who's going to defeat them, who's going to fight them. But when it comes to the Flying Six, I expect for the Strats to win all of those fights. I think that Jinbei needs to prove himself. This is the first arc where he's truly part of the Strats. I think that he needs to win. Show his value. I think that there's foreshadowing in this chapter of Nami eventually defeating Ulti. Robin, Sanji, the way Sanji phrased it, at the very least, Robin's going to put up a good fight. But to take that even further, anytime that this is said, I get the impression Strats are going to win. So Robin's going to win. And I'm still clinging on to the theory or the hope that Sasaki is Kokuro's son, and that will matter in the fight versus Frankie. So Frankie not only defeats Sasaki, but afterwards they have a bro moment, and Sasaki joins the good guys. Overall, I'm really anticipating right now, finally, a Robin battle. I'm not a big battlehead, I guess. For me, Robin doesn't need a fight in order for me to appreciate her or enjoy her role in the story at all. That's not important to me. That being said, if we're actually going to get one, and it really seems like Oda's setting that up, I'm excited for it. I think that if you're being unbiased here, a moment like this for Robin is a little overdue. But yeah, the thing that we have been waiting for all of Wano, pretty much, that finally happened. Tama finally tamed all the Smile users. I actually enjoyed this a lot, but it didn't blow me away. Does that make sense? It was fun. That's the way that I interpreted the chapter as I read the chapter. It's kind of goofy, which I enjoyed. But it wasn't the same as Zoro cutting off the horn on Onigashima, which is just incredible. I really just wonder if there's gonna be more to this, right? It's just a weird example of something that has been telegraphed for a very, very, very long time. Since near the beginning of Wano, right? Oda has let us know, essentially, that Tama was going to do this. Everybody and their mothers thought that Tama was going to tame all the Smiles. I personally considered it to be a certainty, and now that it's happened, that level of confidence is justified. It's almost so obvious, right, that you're mad if it doesn't happen, because it becomes an oversight, a plot hole. Why didn't they do this? Are they this dumb? Sort of situation. But then once they do it, it's okay, well, we knew that was going to happen. What else do you got for us? But it's really hard to know what else this could be because it's such a specific event. Really, this is what Tama can contribute the most. I want you guys to understand how game-changing this move is. Oda's made it clear that a big part of Wano and Onigashima is numbers. It's a numbers game that they've been losing from the start. But these are some of Kaido's most powerful subordinates. Not the most, but you're looking at most of the characters right below the Flying Six. Kaido has been working for years with Caesar and with Smile in order to create these people because Kaido feels like they give him an advantage for the great war that he wants to wage. Yet to me, it almost feels a little less game-changing just because we expected it for so long. When you go through all the past arcs of One Piece, there was like crucial turning points in the battles. These weren't things that were predicted 100 chapters beforehand. Certainly going to happen. You want a good example of this? Look at Zoro cuts Kaido. I think most people believed it was basically a certainty that Zoro was going to cut Kaido around 50 chapters ago. And so, that's true. He did cut Kaido. We had that moment. What has it amounted to? Not much. Eventually it might, but in the short term, we've seen it happen. Kaido dodged, and Zoro cut Kaido and it didn't matter. So if I take this reveal to the fullest extent that I possibly can, like what purpose could this serve to really change how you view the story in a profound way? And the answer that I come to is, if the Strats lose, we're going to look at this as a major opportunity lost. It's going to make us feel sick to our stomachs. How could you have this much go right? Your one chance to use Tama's ability. This was the chance. You can literally think of everything that went right up until now, but this is the cherry on the top. An advantage over Kaido literally nobody is ever going to have, probably ever again. And you still can't win. So this is kind of how I think about it right now. Obviously we'll see. I enjoyed the chapter itself, it was good fun, but I want to see it become more. However, it's possible to do that. And no, I don't think that Tama feeds Kaido a Kibidango or can feed regular Devil Fruit users a Kibidango and then make them allies. I don't see it going in that direction. And sort of related to all this, I still expect that ultimately the Tama plotline is going to lead to Queen in some way. We've had, for a very long time now, Oda set up Queen's interest in what has happened to some of the individuals that Tama has tamed. Queen has been pondering the questions. He thinks to himself, Babanuki didn't really sound like himself. He said all was well, but it wasn't well. What's going on here? He's trying to figure it out, and the answer leads to Tama. After this chapter now, the word is spreading that Tama's ability is real, that it's an ability of the Stride Pirates, and more specifically, probably Tama. This is going to make Tama a target, much the same way as we've seen throughout Wano, at least in the recent chapters. Several groups or individuals have become targets. Momo's become a target and the Scabbards have become a target. Hell, Robin has become a target. I think that shortly we're going to add Tama to this list, and I see this through Queen. For me personally, I think that the Flying Six, I'm not convinced that the Flying Six will be able to accomplish this. Page 1 and Ulti maybe, everybody else I feel like is taken care of. Plus there's multiple targets on the board. But for me it's the Calamities. Who's going to defeat the Calamities at this point? I'm not entirely sure. I certainly don't think X-Drake is going to beat Queen, and I don't think that Marco is going to beat King. And I don't know if anybody is fighting Jack at the moment. So I'm very excited to see how Oda wants to play this one out. But I find it funny that when I was speculating this in the past, I made it super complex, like Tama's gonna sneak into the kitchen and add spiked Kibidango into their food so it gets passed around and they eat it. Oda's like, JB, all of this isn't necessary when you literally have enemies on your side already. No one will expect betrayal like that. And of course Oda was right, as per usual. Sometimes I overthink things, that is a common occurrence. But yeah, we finally understand the mystery of the Squirrel Girl's Bao Huang's eye. And I guess that we were wrong about the last chapter. Maybe. In the last chapter, we speculated that the girl in the room with CP0 was Bao Huang. Not true. I want to shout out to the very, very few commenters and posters out there who told me that they didn't believe that Bao Huang was this girl because she didn't have Bao Huang's kimono or horns. These people, good attention to detail here, you were right. Instead, Bao Huang's power allows her to see through the eye of anybody who wears the symbol, and it also acts as a kind of Denden Mushi, and I guess they literally pass this eye around to anybody who wants to wear it. Now, I said that we were wrong, maybe. I still think it's weird that CP0 would allow Bao Huang and other Wano attendants to actually spy on them. listen to their conversations when they are essentially admitting that they intend to betray Kaido. That's a little bit weird to me. There's ways to speculate around this though. I guess the girl in CP0's room could be a subordinate of CP0 just wearing the mask that allows Bao Huang to see them but not hear what they are saying. In this chapter particularly, Bao Huang never said I could hear what was going on, it's just that I could see them. And when I choose, this is there was a kachuk of someone wearing a mask, like you could turn it on and off, then I can talk to you. This could definitely make sense. I'm curious to learn more about her powers, because if she's listening in and isn't reporting what CP0 is saying, Bao Huang could end up being a secret member of CP0 still. I also find it interesting that CP0 is seemingly aware of all the fights taking place around Onigashima. They have the board, they know the board state very well, like Bao Huang is keeping them personally abreast of what is going on, which is just kind of surprising if this is a member of, Kaido's crew. Why would they devote so much energy to talking to CP0 in the middle of this? But it's nice to get clarity on her powers. Honestly, her powers are incredibly useful. I think about it like Viola's powers, but better. Not only can you see in many different places away from yourself, but you can also communicate with people. It is like the Denden Mushi fruit. Changing subjects here, I think that Nami is more powerful than she is given credit for, in a similar way to Robin. She may not have a ton of defense, but her offense is definitely not scrub level. This chapter, she zapped ulti and it hurt. I didn't defeat ulti, but I was impressed by it. And Nami also suggested, I think, that if the lightning bolt was bigger, i.e., I think if she had Zeus, she could have defeated ulti. Or at the very least, dropped her for a significant amount of time. And honestly, we've seen Nami use Zeus before, and that is not a nothing attack. Is Oda suggesting that Nami is going to get Zeus back and then defeat ulti? With Big Mom, that doesn't seem too likely at the moment, but we've talked about it a lot, things could change. I'm curious if this ends up being foreshadowing or not. But yeah, we gotta talk about Sanji. Sanji is such an interesting part of the story to talk about because it's so polarizing. There's a lot of people that don't like what Oda's done with Sanji after the time skip, and especially don't like what's going on now. There's obviously some people that like it, or that understand it, or that appreciate that aspect of Sanji too, but it is incredibly polarizing. It has people feeling a certain way. And I think personally I see things from both sides. I have a question. Really, I should do a poll here, and maybe I'll do a poll later. How many people enjoyed Sanji's fight with Kalifa, and Enies Lobby? How many people out there were filled with pride and respect when Sanji refused to fight her despite how hard she tried to goad him into it? How many people enjoyed Sanji then afterwards wallowing in self-pity, finally getting conveniently saved by Nami? My personal experience from that arc was a firm no. Especially since there was no real payoff for Sanji doing this. It was just pure suffering. Yes, we got Nami versus Kalifa, which I enjoyed. Yes, Sanji eventually fought Jabra afterwards. I also enjoyed that. None of that directly required Oda to match Sanji with Kalifa in the first place. So that encounter was just brutal. It was just brutal. It was just suffering. There was no direct gain from it. Not then. We assumed that we were going to get some later, but not then. Honestly, it's better forgotten, because if you do forget it, it doesn't really change the Enies Lobby story if you do. Oda reshuffled the fights in a way that made sense for the characters, and then they eventually won. Also worth noting here, at the end of the arc, Sanji had one of my favorite moments of him as a Straw Hat as he opened the gates of justice, and took that upon himself. That's the Sanji that I like, not the Sanji that refuses to fight women and that gets pummeled by them, eventually requiring somebody to save him. And so that's what's going on here. This is Sanji vs. Kalifa, version 2. Are we surprised that people don't like this? I mean, I didn't like it, so I'm not surprised at all. Straight up, guys, as honestly as I can possibly put this, I expect some kind of growth. I'm not going to say which direction this growth has to be, but there has to be growth, because I didn't enjoy Sanji vs. Kalifa. I need reward. I need payoff. And I expect Oda knows this, and I expect Oda is going to deliver on this. I have complete faith and trust in Oda in this regard. Now, is he going to go in a direction you or I are going to like? We'll see. Part of the reason this is so interesting is because The thing that Oda has chosen here is a kind of old value, something in 1999, an idea that I think was probably more popular than it is even 20 years later, at least here in the West. So let's expound upon this and explain why it's so complex. I've seen some people compare Sanji's inability to hit women to other Straw Hat flaws, like Luffy has no sense of danger, Zoro is always lost, Usopp is a scaredy cat, things of that nature. The reason I see this different is because of three reasons. One, these other things the characters have no control over. Usopp can't stop being scared, that's just who he is. Luffy can't just become rational, that's not a capability that he has. Zoro just can't all of a sudden understand directions. It's like we would never be mad at Usopp for being weaker than Zoro. That's not in Usopp's capabilities. We just want Usopp to be the best version of himself, and we don't compare him to Zoro in that way. It's out of Usopp's control. He's not deciding to be weak, he hasn't learned to be weak, he just is weak. Sanji's, on the other hand, is a choice, it's a principle. He's doing what he wants to do. Nobody is limiting Sanji other than himself. Because Sanji can choose, it hits different. Everybody takes it a bit differently. Black Maria and Oda even egged on Sanji here in this chapter in the same way, and egged on the audience too. It's like, alright, now call Nico Robin, have her save you, alright, do that, and keep in mind that we're going to break her, and then we're going to break the Red Scabbards because you can't do anything. And I take myself into Sanji's mind, and he's being tempted. And of course, most of the audience want him to take that bait. And so this leads into the second reason why I think that this is different from other Straw Hat flaws. This hurts the Straw Hat crew, and Sanji has control over it. Zoro's inability to go the right way definitely hurts the crew to some degree, but it's his choice. He has no control over this, other than maybe some self-awareness of his limitations, and in the end, it only hurts the Strats a little. Sanji has to defeat his share of opponents. They need him to do that. This battle is way too crucial. You don't do this, and everyone potentially dies, and it's very, very easy to blame you. Everybody else is doing their best, fighting often above their weight class. I think that Sanji is currently fighting below his weight class and failing. I think that he should be fighting a calamity, especially with Zoro up on the roof fighting against Kaido. This is the same as Eni's lobby, right? Sanji defeated Jabra, who was above Kalifa, but he lost to Kalifa. I do expect someone like Robin will save Sanji, but in a way it still wouldn't make me enjoy this moment. The logic part of my brain says, at the very least, if you're not going to fight the women, escape from them. Surely, Sanji, you have the capability of running away from Black Maria. He's not choosing that anyway, but as I think about it, it's like, am I really satisfied by this either? No. And finally, the third reason is I simply don't agree with this philosophy, and I think that many people feel the same way as I do. I can respect being a man of principle, holding to your word and your values. But it's hard for me as an audience member when I think that that principle is stupid. If a woman is attacking you, I don't care if you are a man, defend yourself. If we are so concerned about sexism and equality, then give the same respect to a woman that you would give to a man. If they are literally asking for a fight, then fight them. This isn't the real world of law-abiding citizens. These are pirates. You know, I'm not out here telling you that it's okay to hit women. Not what's going on here. In real life, follow the laws, remove yourself from that situation, and get a divorce if your spouse is dangerous and violent. More so, I guess I'm saying here, I don't respect women who pick fights with men because they know that they can get away with it, and the law is always going to be on their side, and the men just have to take it, and sometimes in very abusive situations. That is kind of underrepresented. My father can tell you a lot about this, and that's part of the reason why I have strong opinions about this is that situation was very relevant to my life, and my father was lucky to get custody over me because my mother was very clearly not a cohesive member of society. And my father never touched her, no matter how much he was provocated. My father wanted me in his life so badly to endure this, and compile the ridiculous amounts of evidence required to convince the courts to have custody over me. But sort of taking this out of the real world and law and how that works and what's smart to do and what's not, One Piece is different. Life as a pirate is different. These women are designated fighters, and by refusing to fight them, I find it actually disrespectful. What, women can't be warriors? You kind of you're fighting against whatever chivalry you're trying to establish here. I personally find it more chivalrous to give the woman what it is that she actually wants. Recognize her as an opponent that deserves your very best. Hell, the women themselves, Black Maria, Kalifa, Nami, they all dunk on Sanji for this. So of course the audience does as well. Are we surprised that people don't like this when it's easy to clown him for this? No, not surprised. So unlike any other situation, these 3 examples make it very easy for people to speculate that Sanji needs to overcome this, that he needs to move past this, that he needs to change his principles and his values to reflect reality. You can't do this when it comes to Zoro's sense of direction, and people don't want that to happen like they want it to happen with Sanji. But so here's my line in the sand, and it's always been my line in the sand. It's a very distinct, I think arguable point. It's not okay. I don't think that it's okay to sacrifice your values just because the situation demands it. This comes up in a lot of different fiction and stories. Essentially, when the going gets rough, when it gets tough, whatever it is that you claim to believe in is thrown into the wayside as we as humans fight for whatever it is that we want, fight for our lives. You say that killing is abhorrent, but then you put yourself in that situation when you're desperate. People will kill. This is not how I want it to go for Sanji. I don't want Sanji to fight a woman because he feels like he has to break his code, that he has to break who he is for the sake of the Straw Hat crew. I just don't think that that is what One Piece is about. I don't think that it's an appropriate moral, and I don't think that this is Oda's moral, that, when the going gets rough, it's okay to sacrifice your values, your ethics, your principles. In this specific case, I disagree with Sanji's, but I agree that you have to stick by what you believe. What I want Sanji to do is I want Sanji to realize that his beliefs are flawed. This only works one way and not the other. In my opinion, guys, I wouldn't like if Sanji moved on from the Wano arc with regrets in his life. Something he could never take back. If he fights a woman but doesn't believe in that fight, that would hurt Sanji to a level, at least in my opinion, that is hard to express. I personally think that Sanji wouldn't be able to face Zeph after that. Sanji respects Zeph too much to be able to lie to him. And Sanji obviously cares enough that it's going to bother him. It's almost an admission of defeat, long term, for what Sanji stands for. The only way this works is if what he stands for changes. And he's convinced of that. So where do we go from here? What is it that I actually expect? And again, it depends on what Oda wants to do. If Oda wants to change what Sanji stands for, then I'm for that, obviously. And I think that Oda would be able to accomplish that, and that's not a bad thing in the story. Oda may not choose to go that path. If that's the case, I think what we're likely to see, the huge payoff moment, is maybe Sanji finally standing up for himself and just laying down the law and telling everybody and the reader, hey, this is the way that I want to live my life. I want to live free. You don't decide what is right or wrong for me to do. I decide that. If I die because I cannot hit a woman, then so be it. I choose that death. I think that that could be a powerful moment. Life for me tends to be an ever-escalating arms race of people breaking your values and ethics. And it would be nice to see a character in the story, even for an example that I don't necessarily agree with, say, enough is enough. I would rather live my life right, as I see it, and die because of it, than break that and live as a traitor to myself. It's just one of those things about this world that depresses me, that, the people who win in life, the people who succeed, are the people that are willing to do anything, sacrifice anything, in order to win. It's a constant. People like Jeff Bezos and many, many others, they rise because they claw their way to the top, sacrificing whatever ethics get in the way along the way. But yeah, it's pretty clear to me that Sanji is nearing a moment of existential crisis. Think about Sanji throughout the time skip. It's not good. Start off at Fishman Island, his nose bleeds. Huge detriment to that arc. I like the way that Oda resolved it at the end, tied in the blood with Jinbei and Luffy. Doesn't necessarily correct for how silly that he made Sanji look. I don't think that too many people out there respect Sanji for what he did, the role that he played in Fishman Island. Essentially every fight in the time skip that Sanji has had has either been off-screened or he didn't win. Losing to Black Maria is obviously going to add to this. You start wondering maybe Sanji begins to doubt himself and how much he really adds to the Straw Hat crew. if he's constantly failing to meet his own and others' expectations of him, and in a way stands in their way. This is probably made most evident by his decision to go to Whole Cake Island without first asking for help. He wanted to take care of it himself because he didn't want to involve the other Straw Hats in his problems. At the same time, he made a glaring mistake because he should have known that Luffy was going to follow him. Luffy did. Sanji actually attacked his captain in order to try and convince him to go away. This has not been fully resolved. I don't think that Sanji's happy with what he did in Whole Cake Island. He told Luffy himself that he believed that he had no right to come back to the Strat crew after doing that. He of course succeeded in making the cake. That was his defining moment, but in making the cake, he saved the enemy Big Mom, and this still could absolutely result in a traumatic loss. And the Big Mom pirates actually being there and following them to Wano, in my mind, has to make this all worse. I think that Sanji is the type of character to blame himself. You know, we've obviously spent a long time here talking about Sanji's ethics, values concerning hitting women, but another important one related to the story recently is Sanji's ethics concerning feeding those that are hungry, feeding those that want food. Feeding Big Mom was just the same as feeding Gin and Don Krieg in the Baratie arc. Sanji fed them knowing that they may become enemies afterwards, but he had to do it. It was at a detriment to potentially everybody there. Obviously in that arc it was resolved rather quickly, they dealt with it, but there could be a moment Oda has planned to sort of again punish Sanji for continuing to hold fast to his values. And unlike Sanji's refusal to hit women, I don't think that this one should change. I do think that Sanji should believe in what he did in Whole Cake Island, feeding Big Mom, regardless of the threat she now is. Thinking about it like this, including this as a potential evidence point here, becomes very clear what Oda's objective with Sanji might be. It doesn't matter what the risks are, what the consequences are, that kindness, it is who Sanji is, and will lead him to fulfill his dreams. We saw Sanji's kindness turn Gin into an ally. We saw Sanji's kindness turn Pudding into an ally. I think the same thing is going to happen in a very roundabout way concerning Big Mom. Just as Sanji fed Gin, Sanji fed Big Mom, this is all going to come around. What we need is that payoff for Sanji refusing to hit women. Maybe a payoff in a similar way. But to me, all of this is stacking together. Following Sanji since the time skip, it's been brutal. It's been very brutal. And I think, the more that happens, the more I'm convinced that there's going to be a huge moment for us to enjoy at some point. Oda's leading up to something. Oda's going to use Sanji to pull at our heartstrings. However that ends up happening. But yeah, that leads us to the end of the chapter. We follow Bao Huang. She's found the red scabbards. She knows where they are. And there is a 10th person among them. Somebody is helping them. And we see their silhouette at the end of the chapter. I've seen a lot of tinfoil theories. I just want to make this very clear. This is 98%, 99% likely, I think, to be Hiyori. I think that it looks like Hiyori. The hair falls down in a way just like her. Hiyori has got to be here. She has got to do something. We've been waiting for that. And we discover this person tending to the scabbards. How did this person know where to find them? Possibly Hiyori's connection with Denjiro. You add up all the facts at hand. 99%, 98%, this is Hiyori. And I'm honestly super excited to see what Oda has planned for her in the story. It's kind of an enigma to some extent. I expect Hiyori to be a warrior, a woman warrior, super taboo in Wano. I think that maybe she was trained by Denjiro. I think it would definitely be fitting for Hiyori to have the other sword that Oden possessed. I know that's supposed to be Momonosuke's sword. It just makes more sense to me. Momonosuke isn't a warrior like that. It makes more sense to me to be in the hands of the child who's actually been in Wano, maybe even training this entire time. I've also had a lot of theories, speculations. Maybe she becomes the Shogun of Wano when Momonosuke travels with the Strats. We'll see about that, obviously. She's obviously got a lot of pent-up rage being in Wano the last 20 years. She wants to do something. She needs to be here. I'm excited. That being said, it's not above Oda to pull a fast one on us. I've seen a bunch of tinfoil theories. The one that I want to point out to you guys that I think has the most validity is Toki. If this is not Hiyori, 99% Hiyori, the 1% for me is Toki. We've speculated already that Perhaps Oda has left a clue that Toki is still alive because he made a point of pointing out the scar on Toki's leg during the flashback in a way that maybe suggested that we might see this character again and recognize him by the scar. It was just one of those panels where it's like Oda drew a big red arrow right to Toki's scar. It's like, look at this, remember this. You also then have this potential connection between the Red Scabbards, this 10th person that is with them, and Nico Robin. Confrontation or a situation which results in a conversation between Nico Robin and Toki. I am for this. And I guess I always just felt like Toki didn't need to dive. She could have chosen to teleport herself into the future, survive, and play a role later. For now, this is wishful thinking, but I just wanted to throw it out there as, something to pique your interest. Overall, guys, I don't want you to think otherwise. I know we talked about a lot of things, maybe not from the most positive standpoint, but I really did enjoy the chapter. I know that some people didn't, but to me, a lot of this stuff, even the Sanji stuff, is not a huge deal. Sometimes I do think that impatience gets the better of a lot of fans as we read weekly, and so, we gotta wait for a lot of these things to become the full versions of themselves. And it's more than made up by the fun that we had, and especially Sanji, the moment with Robin was absolutely worth it. And we really didn't talk about Frankie at all because I really don't have anything to add other than Frankie's awesome and is consistently among my favorite Straw Hats. And I am absolutely 100% excited to see what comes next. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I had to say today. As always, I'm curious as to what you guys think, whether you know something from the chapter that I might have missed. Just share your thoughts. Like the video if you liked the video, dislike the video if you disliked the video, subscribe if you want to be notified for my future content, and as always, guys, have a wonderful day.